I went to Duke for about 4 months, but in those 4 months,
Yeah,
I,
that's
I
about
I learned
right.
quite a bit, man. I took ping pong. I took ping pong and a bunch of other great electives that got me through. What's up, Doc?
What's up, Austin? How you
Man,
doing,
it's I've been good.
my
Just
boy?
going through it like you. I'm trying to think the last time me and you talked or we saw in person. Um, might have been the last time we played. Um,
Yeah, but you wasn't that happy at the end. I remember, if my memory serves me right. But
no, I wasn't.
yeah, that was we've talked on the phone a lot. But
Right.
last time I saw you was I think we had won by like I don't even know 30 or 40. I don't even
You did
remember
not
what
win
the
by.
score
You did
was.
not win by 40. You did not win by 40 points. I can assure you that. All I know is the series is what's it 2-2?
I don't remember. Because if I'm not winning, my memories
Fair
doesn't
enough.
serve me
Fair enough.
correctly. But I do think it's 2-2. Yeah.
Yeah. What? How have you been? How's lockdown? Just so people have an idea of what you've been going through as a
Well,
coach and whatnot.
well, lockdown's been good. I mean, obviously, I check on you guys, on you and your brothers and sisters, and your mom and the family, everybody, a lot. Check on my players a lot. I think it's really important that we stay in contact with our players as much as we can. We do Zoom sessions with them where we bring on celebrities. We had different guys, different celebrities. Mike Tyson was on. Peyton Manning was amazing. You know, uh, we got Michael Phelps later on today talking to the team. So we're doing a lot of stuff. We're trying to make sure
Wow.
everybody's working out, as
Wow.
much as possible.
Is it true that Balmer got everybody Peloton equipment, like Peloton bikes and treadmills?
Yeah, everybody was shipped Peloton bikes
Wow.
or just spin bikes, treadmills, weights. We created a workout room for every single player in their own home.
That has to be. I would imagine that has to be way more than anybody else has done in the NBA. I haven't heard anything like that within the NBA. I don't
No,
think
I
any
don't,
team has.
it's funny. We don't know, but it's funny. Lawrence Frank, and El, he's always thinking out of the box and ahead. And we did it right away. We did it within the first week of the shutdown because we were concerned that if we waited, there would be a run on bikes and treadmills. So
Right.
obviously that's what's great about having an owner like Steve. I mean, he
Right.
will allow you to do things like that.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. We have voluntary yoga sessions at 10 a.m. on Zoom. So you guys are you guys you guys are quite far ahead of us, man. Y'all got special guests and Pelotons and bikes. Talking to Seth, who's with Dallas, and a bunch of other players at other teams. Everybody's kind of going to the same thing we are. So you guys are definitely ahead of the curve. I remember speaking to you saying, when we come out of this, the team that has the most collective guys who have took this time seriously and in shape is going to be the team that has the best chance of winning. You still believe that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's important, at least at the beginning, because we don't know how, when we come out of this, we don't know how many days we're going to have to work out. We also
Right.
don't know how many games. We may go straight into the playoffs.
Right.
That's going to be a problem.
Right. And have you been talking to you've been talking to your players even outside of the Zoom stuff? You've been talking to Kawhi, PG, all these guys.
Yeah, I talk to Kawhi and PG. I try to talk to each guy like once a week. I don't think you guys want to talk to us very often, enough. You talk to, you know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
get
Right.
it. I was a player. It's nice talking to your coach, just having some contact,
Right.
but you don't want to spend 2 hours a day with them either. So I try
Right.
to walk that fine line on being in contact, but not being overbearing.
Right. Yeah. That's. Well, I think it also depends on how much of a player coach you are, and you are actually one of the better, or probably the best player coach in the NBA. Staying in touch with your guys. Obviously, we got a guy like Mike, who's a little bit older, just checks in here and there. But it's interesting to see what other teams have been doing. You guys definitely seem like you guys are ahead of the curve by far, and how you guys are staying in touch and staying active. From all the ideas that have been thrown around with this us coming back, what do you see happening, and what would you like to happen? Which one do you think is the best one, whether it's us going to Vegas or Orlando?
And man, I've heard all kinds of things. Obviously, if we're going to have to go somewhere, Orlando would be easier for at least you and I,
Right.
because that's where we're
Yeah,
from.
that would be a dream
You
come
know
true. It'd be like me
that
playing
would
in
be pretty nuts.
it'd be like AAU all over again for me in the Milk House, man.
That's what I told someone. I said I lived in the milk house watching you play and Jeremiah play and Spencer play. So I'm used to that. I said Austin would have a home court advantage
Yeah, I don't know if
because we've
anybody in
been
the
there so
NBA,
much.
I don't know if any player in the NBA, I would actually be willing to bet there is not a single player in the NBA that's put more buckets in the Milk House than I have.
No,
There's no way. There's no
no
way.
doubt. Well, you've done it since you've been
Yeah,
in the third grade.
right. I've had it, and
So
that's where
yeah.
all my tournaments have been. So I'm almost positive that I would have the upper, probably the advantage in that one.
But I'd say this: the best format, and listen, none of this has been approved or talked about even because every day things change. But I think the best format would be have a play-in for the 7th and 8th spot. So 7, 8, 9, and 10 have a tournament where they're
Yep.
playing in for those last 2 spots. The other 6 teams in both conferences who've qualified during that time could practice.
Right.
And then once the 7 and 8 is decided, we start the playoffs. I think it'd be very difficult for a non-playoff team, a team that's way out, to come back and play 5 or 6 games. I mean, they're not working out. They're
Right.
more worried about next year.
Right. That's what I was wondering, if we're going to come back and at least try to, because it's the 70 games thing, right, for the TV deal that they're trying to get to.
Yeah, I don't know if they are anymore. I don't think they really care. I just think they feel like if you play 4 or 5 exhibition games or regular season games, it gets you ready for the playoffs a little bit more. I just don't think that it can work because of the non-playoff teams. I just can't imagine being one of those teams right now.
Right.
They're not working out. They're not practicing. They're thinking about next year already.
Right. 100%. Now, obviously, as you know, and as everybody knows, I play for the Rockets. To transition into this real quick, I would like to ask you this. What is your breakdown of Austin Rivers' scouting report? What is my scouting report? Because we're very likely to. There is a high chance that we either going to play you or the Lakers or somebody in the playoffs, I would imagine. I would love to hear this.
Well, I have the best scouting report of anybody on you. I mean, I've seen, you know what? I've seen you play more than any other human being. Let's just start there. So, number one, and I'm not going to give it all to you, but I know in I think it's the left corner, you shoot 60% from the 3 in one of the corners. You're not getting that shot against us. We know what corner it is. We're just not going to allow that pass to you. All right. Open court, we try to take advanced passes because we know if you get an advanced pass, the one thing you have, your first step is lethal. So we're going to try to take that away from you. And then the last thing is going right. You have that great right to left. You have that great right to left crossover. So we try to play for that. But then the right hand, we try to take that away as much as possible because you're good at going right.
The one thing you guys do have is a plethora of elite defenders. That one lineup when you guys have Kawhi and Paul and Pat. It's interesting for you guys. I've obviously I watch your team close. I watch all the great teams, especially teams I feel like we might have a chance of playing. Your end of the game lineups in the playoffs are going to be very interesting because Pat is y'all's best defender. But if you have Pat out there, where do you fit in Lou, who's obviously one of the best closers in the game of basketball? And now that you have Marquise Morris, who's added a whole – because you guys guarded us different than anybody prior to you guys started something. Right when we played y'all, team started copying you. We went on like a 4-game skid there. You guys were guarding us this little box, and then y'all went one-on-one with James, kind of forcing him to shoot tough shots.
But we have the ability to do that because of Kawhi, Pat, and PG. All 3 are elite. And so, and Kawhi being the elite of the elites. So it does give us a chance to guard more one-on-one and then being in help. Because if you can do that defensively, you're good. You're really good.
Right. And actually, this actually transcends perfectly to my next topic, just because obviously you know my game better than anybody else. That being obviously you being my father, growing up, watching me play. But I think above anything else, you coached me for about 3.5, almost 4 years, I would say.
Yeah.
I would like to just talk about that because I don't think me and you personally have never openly talked about that, especially to the public. We've always done sound bites and interviews individually, but just take me back to that moment. 2000, what, 14, 15.
Yeah.
I just talk about the trade. The good things. Were you nervous? Your expectations. Obviously, was it probably a little unsettled feeling? What was going through your mind then?
Well, you know me. Listen, I didn't know. Like, it's funny. I've never had a dream of coaching my kids. I've
Right,
always wanted to be the parent, like just kind of watch,
right,
critique, send you texts. Hey, Austin, I think you need to do this more. You need to do that more. But Dave Wool really kept pushing it. Like, he had been pushing it for a good 3 to 4 months, even before the season. He thought it would be a good idea. And the first thing is, I honestly, because I didn't look back at the history, I never knew that it hadn't been done before. I actually thought that Georgia coach Kobe, and Kobe played a lot, Carl, and I thought it happened a
right.
couple times. Having said that, once I did it, and this is what I mean by me, once I make a decision on something and decide, I don't ever look back at what could happen.
Right.
I look at
Yeah.
I look at what we could do, like what's the positives of it. And listen, so when I brought you in, it was different. It was strange. As you know, we didn't have the closest team in the locker room.
Right. I got
So
thrown into the craziest, bro.
yeah,
For the people who don't know, like on the outside looking in, everybody's like, "Oh, it had to be so easy," da 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 da. First off, nobody, and just like you said, you've never dreamed of being coach, of coaching, your son. I never in my wildest imagination did I think I was going to make the NBA and play for you. I always thought it was going to be a thing where it would be fun when we compete against each other, vice versa. And then that situation happens, and I'm thrown in on a team. And obviously, I'm not going to name individuals, but there were some guys on that team that, it was not the easiest situation to be placed in.
no,
Besides the
it's not easy for anyone on that team. Like, it
right, right,
was,
right,
that it was just it was, unfortunately, you got thrown into a really funky locker room, which happens in our league. But what put more spice on it, then you're my son as
right,
well.
right. Because yeah,
And
exactly, and you said it perfectly. It
yeah,
wasn't easy on anybody. Because if that was any team, even a good team, a great, team with great morale. Obviously, we were a great team, but the morale wasn't the best. But even a team that was perfect, which is no such thing. Anytime a coach's son is in the locker room, it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just different. And that's something I've never been in that role my entire life. I've never been the coach's son. I've always had a dad who was a coach and I was his son, but I was never the coach's son on his team. So that situation for me was just every time I came in the locker room, every time I came to practice, I didn't know if guys were as open with me or not talking, about certain things that they talk about with others. And I knew what it was, you know what I mean? It wasn't, but at the time and where I was in my career, I had no time or energy to even focus on those things. It was more so about me establishing myself and trying to be the player that, or be a solid, consistent player in the league that people thought I could be in the first place. And
yeah,
so, yeah,
it's tough too, boss, because my thing was, like, you were joining a team, and I was, every team's different, and that team, I was in the championship mode of that team, like, so I was tough, not on you, but I
right,
was tough on you as well. But I was a very demanding coach with that group, mainly because when you got a group that doesn't want to connect, then as a coach, you got to push more.
right,
You got to get involved more, and you're also going to upset more. That means more guys aren't going to be feeling you, and I could care less. Like, I was like, at the point by the time you got there, I'm going to force it and make us fit, or we're not going to work. But I'm
right,
not just going to allow us to fall apart.
right,
And so you, unfortunately, when we traded for you, you were in the height of that, which
right,
had to be very, very
right,
difficult.
right. That was man. But I mean, even in saying this, some of the positives that there's way more than negatives.
Yeah.
There, the negatives, a lot of it was out of our control, whether it was media or other players. Like anything, there's going to be your good people, and there's going to be some, quite frankly, excuse my language, there's going to be dickheads. And that's in any industry or any business that you're in. There's going to be people who make things great, people who try to, sour a situation. But the positives, so much for me, outweigh the negatives. I mean, we got to do something, and again, I'm with you. Prior to my acknowledgement, I didn't know that had never been done before. And besides all of that stuff, I think me and you became a lot closer, because prior to that, our relationship obviously was father-son, but it was mostly, coach-son. Like, we talked about basketball most of the time, when we talked growing up, you know what I mean? And I think it's crazy that when you became my actual coach, we started to actually talk about other things than basketball, because obviously every day I went to work, you were my coach anyway. So then after that, you didn't have to be that anymore. And I think that changed our relationship. So that if I had to take one thing that I'm most thankful for that time, is probably that.
I agree. I agree because, I left to Boston, and I think you were going to be I don't know, maybe a freshman in high school or eighth grade.
Yeah.
And so that from that point on, I saw you in the summers. You came up a lot to Boston. You had the hilarious one-on-one games with Kevin and
remember that.
and Paul and all those guys. But what I loved about our relationship as coach, when I got to coach you, we used to have great talks then. Like, it was more about non-basketball. I coach you all day. Right. So it's funny. I thought then when we talked on the phone about something, it usually was non-basketball. It was more about life. And you were a grown man now. Right. And so it was it's the best thing that has happened to me in our relationship. And now I think it's even better, because now that we've gone through that, we talk all the time, we communicate all the time. It's easy. So
yeah, I definitely think that's easier now. I mean, obviously it's way easier on both of us, obviously, because again, we enjoyed it so much, but it was a lot. It was a lot for both of us, especially me in opposing arenas. Every time I'd play, it was just a lot to handle, which also made it more fun for me in a weird way. I did like that. But now that we've gone through all that, it's just so much easier. But it's only easier and better now because we had those great experiences.
No, it's been great. And the only negative part of it was you got negative attention, because, it's just like anything. When a father and a son are running the same company, the son got it because of this, which is,
and that's what drove me crazy, because people would say, like, oh, it's even people who try to be nice would be like, it's no different than when a dad hires his son at a law firm. I said that it's not the same thing.
Exactly.
I said, you can't be given an NBA job. I got drafted. I go, if your dad is a CEO of a company, he can hire his son and place him in whatever position he wants.
Well, listen, I agree. It's not like you were the number one, number two, number three player in high school coming out. You were the most highly recruited player in the country. You, Anthony Davis, and Bradley Beal, and a couple other guys. I had nothing to do with that. You got drafted by New Orleans. I had nothing to do with that. The only time I had come involved, the guy involved, is when we traded for you. Right. You're already in the NBA. So all that was just noise. And I think at the end of the day, it was a good lesson for you. Number one, you do like being a villain a little bit. Like, you went to Duke, JJ Redick. JJ is very similar. Right. I think there's a group of guys who they don't mind. It actually turns you on. Michael Jordan is very similar. Like, you needed that in some ways because it got you going. But on the other end of it, most of it was garbage. It allowed you to be a target, but that's okay. Like, we're all targets in some ways, and you turn it into a positive. You drown out the noise when you need to, and then you just go on with your life.
Right. Yeah. No, it was definitely a lot of that. And again, I agree. It as negative as it was, or because everybody's human, so you ignore, but sometimes things touch you.
Yeah, they do.
But at the end of the day, the competitive drive that it brought out of me, whether it was my first time in that playoffs, that's where I really kind of broke out. as a player versus Houston, actually, funny enough. That's what drove that. And then what happens is anytime you're faced with that type of negativity, obviously you've been through it many more times than I have. You have an opportunity to where if you overcome it, you can turn it. You know what I mean? Like you can
Yes.
turn it to where like people actually end up saying, "Oh, okay." You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I was. I felt like I was faced with that so much, and then I kind of turned it a little bit with the first playoffs, and then more so when I had the eye game. I think people really realized how much I love basketball and how I could hoop. You know what I mean? I'm just not some kid who's just out here for the heck of it. I could actually play basketball. And that was something that because prior to that, people had known that, but you get to the league and better than I do. It is such a "what have you done for me now" world we live in, to where people could care less about what I was in high school or college or what I got drafted by. It's "what have you done for me lately?" And
Yeah, that's true. And I will say this, like from afar now, and I've told you this personally, but I'm so proud of watching you now, because when I got you, and even in New Orleans, you're still trying to find who you were, right?
right,
And that's every young player goes through that struggle. They're trying to find out what they are, who they are. Now you've become a really solid like role player on any good basketball team because you're willing to guard the guys. You move the ball, you can attack, you can score. But you've really like your game has grown in so much in the last 4 years. It's been amazing to watch. And it's more, to me, your mental game, the talent and all that have already been there. But you become a hell of a teammate. Like, it's
right.
just fun to watch from afar. Watching you and James, watching you and Russell. Now, I watch two ways. I watch as a proud father and watch your growth. And then I'm also looking at how we're going to beat you. We have to look at
Right.
it that way as well. So it's
It's
funny.
not happening.
I have
It's
to
not
look
happening.
at both ways.
Y'all not beating us. Y'all not beating us.
Oh,
I
well.
we match up perfectly with y'all to where I feel like if there's any team that like, I just think we match up better with you guys better than anybody in the NBA. That's just how I feel. Although last time we played you, it didn't go too well for us, but still, I still feel this way. Switching gears, I would like to talk about this. As you know, the whole world has been captivated by this Last Dance documentary.
It's awesome.
It is incredible. It's the best docuseries I've ever seen. Along with, I personally, my favorite is the Dream Team docuseries. I think that's the best. I think it was a 30 for 30.
Yeah.
I think that's the best basketball documentary I've ever personally seen. But this Last Dance is so not only captivating due to the timing of this, because we're all sitting at home watching it, but just due to what it's about. Michael has so much about him and Scotty and Rodman, but like they're going in depth of who they are as a character and everything. We're getting footage that we've never seen before. It's been crazy. I would like to talk about obviously last episode, or I mean just all the episodes, but last episode we saw a lot of footage of the Knicks games, and you guys were one of the very few teams to push them to 7. I would love to talk about the NBA then versus now, but first I want to talk about just your battles versus Jordan.
Yeah, that honestly, that opened up old wounds watching that for me. And I'm not joking. I was like, we were up 2-0 against the Chicago Bulls, and no one had been up 2-0. And it's good to get it confirmed. They saw us as their major threat. Like, I know, that Phoenix series was tough, but I think they believed that they could get through us. They could win it. They could win their 6th or their 3rd title at that point. And we believed we were going to win that series. We got 2-0. I swear, Austin, that we had 4 days off between game 2 and 3. And for 4 days, Michael had to hear about his gambling and about that stuff. And I remember even back then us saying, oh, man, all they're doing is pissing this dude off. They're just, we got to be ready for Michael onslaught in game 3.
Right.
And he killed us in game 3 and 4. But what I will say watching it is, and I see the biggest difference, is how players, we would act stars. Like, back then, we wasn't trying to be your friend. Me and Michael, up into that New York series, we had a pretty darn good relationship. And it changed after that because it had to. And it's not because you don't like him or he doesn't like you. And maybe it's because, man, back then we felt like you had to get yourself there mentally to be able to beat the best.
Right.
And so, but that series hurt me, man. They showed the Charles Smith, the 3 missed layups.
I always thought they were missed layups.
Yeah.
I always thought they were missed layups, but he was getting a shot block, though, it
No,
seemed like.
Exactly. I think you're exactly right.
Everyone always talks about him blowing layups, but I mean, there was like 5 guys around him.
Yeah, like he had 3 easy layups. Those were hard shots. First of all, he kept getting the offensive rebound. So give him credit for keep going back up. It's just, I think
he also had Scotty and Jordan and Horace surrounding him. Like, those are athletic, great defenders. Like,
either one of those shots would have been hard to make. Let's put it that way. So, but unfortunately, none of them went in. There was a shot that BJ got on me late in the game that haunts me to this day because I was in help and I got picked off. So, you remember all that stuff, but the battles were amazing and it was so physical back then. But it was fun. Like, it wasn't trying to hurt anybody, but we wasn't giving you nothing.
Right. And it's I didn't know you guys were up 2-0. I didn't know that was I thought it was like, a back and forth type thing. I didn't know you guys were up 2-0 going into Chicago. Are they the best team you've ever played? Is that the best team?
Yeah, by far. Like, I don't think they still get enough credit for their defense. When Michael and Scotty, they have this 1-2-2 press, which no one runs anymore. We're actually doing it a little bit now ourselves because I look at Kawhi and PG, very similar athletes, long and with treads on the floor, we could do it as well. But when they got you in a trap, it was the hardest defense I've ever had to face. I never went to a game as a player thinking about somebody's defense. When you went into the series with them, you were thinking about it. Like, we can't get trapped. I can't let Michael turn me and get trapped because you're not getting out of it. It's the best team ever by far. I will say the Celtics with that front line of Mikal, Parrish, and Bird was pretty tough as well.
And where would you put the Warriors with Kevin Durant?
Oh, right there. I mean, I would pick the Bulls mainly because of just their defensive ability. The Rodman Bulls, because
you'd put the Bulls with Rodman over
everybody,
over every other team ever.
Yeah, I would. I don't know the Lakers with Magic and that group were pretty good. Those have all been great series, but Michael is the differentiator to me. He separates it. You put Scotty, on Durant, and Durant's still going to score because Durant is Durant. But I guess they probably would have put Rodman actually on Durant because Rodman he's the other guy it's so underrated. We always talk about his rebounding. Dennis Rodman could guard 1 through 5. Like, he was the greatest big man defender maybe ever. And then you got Scotty, who is known as the greatest defender ever. And you have Michael, who's known as one of the greatest defenders ever. It'd have been a heck of a series, though. I don't think
wasn't Ron Harper a pretty damn good defender? Great
defender, long arms, athletic.
I think Ron Harper gets a lot of he gets lost in the mix here, especially on defense. He was what made them athletic and long. I mean, people don't remember Ron Harper was one of the guys in the dunk contest. Back when he was with the Cavs, he was a freak
athlete, long, high IQ. I mean, listen, that team was put together very well, especially defensively. What makes me nuts is, it's funny, I forgot, I lost time, is the fact before that season started, they knew that they were going to get disassembled. Can you imagine a team that
I don't to this day?
It's nuts.
I'm trying to watch this document, and I'm trying to just understand what was going through Jerry Krause and just the management at that time. And I don't understand what's the point of having a team if you're winning. Why are you trying to disassemble? I guess it's because they knew Michael was leaving.
But Michael wasn't leaving. Michael was if Phil Jackson coaches year 7. Michael Jordan is playing year 7. That I believe.
And his last year, he averaged 28 points per game. That's when he retired. See,
Yeah.
that just does not make sense to me. And I understand, Michael even said the documentary, which was really actually cool. He's like, he's talking about Pat Ewing being one of those guys like, I'm going to play till I can't play no more. He's like, I don't know what that means. I don't want to do that. He wanted to go out where he was still top dog. He did not want to play at a time where he wasn't considered the best anymore. I think he was just so competitive he couldn't handle not
No.
playing, but I still think he had 2 or 3 years left of being the best. I don't know.
Yeah. Listen, they won a world championship. You can make the argument. So if they bring that same team back, who's going to beat them? Like, who's going to beat them?
Because who won after that? Who? Who won after that he retired?
Gosh, I was just trying to think that maybe the Spurs.
It was the Spurs,
it might have
right?
been the Spurs in the strike-shortened season, but I'm not sure. Could they have beaten the Bulls? I don't think so.
Probably
I don't
not.
know. No.
And just as a quick side note, do you think whoever wins this championship will also have like a little like asterisk next to it? Like
I don't think people care about asterisks who win. Like,
okay.
Of course they are. But we did play 70 games already. So if we get to a playoffs, the only way, listen, somebody may get injured or something, and then that's asterisk. But you can do that with any champion. Like, they won because this guy got hurt. They won. When you win the title, and I can say this, you win it.
Right.
Like, everybody else had the same playing field that you had. Whoever wins it this year, they're going to earn it. Okay. There are no free championships given in the NBA. They're not.
Okay. That's actually, it's interesting to hear just from you. Because you hear this out, like, whoever wins this year doesn't count. I actually think the exact opposite. I was actually on air. I don't know what interview I was doing past week, but I was saying whoever wins this is one of the hardest ones to ever win. I said, we're talking about we're playing 70 games and guys have to take 2 months off and then come back and try to win again and get your chemistry back. I was like, whoever does this team truly had the best chemistry.
The best chemistry, the best work ethic, the best focus. I mean, you can make the chance that this is the hardest one to win in a lot of ways, because part of winning a title is keeping your focus. And teams that keep their focus throughout this whole time, they're going to deserve it. But listen, it's so hard to win. And so whoever does win, I always say that the people who say put an asterisk by it, they're the losers. Right. The winners don't ever say put an asterisk by it. We won. Because let me say this, if we win it, we're going to have a parade. We're going to have a big trophy in our case, and we're going to get rings. And then on opening night the next year, we're going to let the banner go down.
Right.
So whoever wins it, wins it.
Right. This summer, actually, to transfer into this topic, this summer you got a lot of heat or a lot of attention for saying, Jordan reminds you a lot of Kawhi Leonard, to the point where you actually got fined about it.
Yeah, it's nuts. And he does. And the point I was making that day was we were just talking about body types.
Yeah. Like
when you look at Jordan and you look at his hands, Jordan, people don't talk about his hands. His hands were amazing. They were huge, very similar to Kawhi. When you look at Kawhi's body type, they have the same type of body. You look at their game, their in-between games are lethal, both of them. So, I wasn't saying it, and you know how people are. It's a great example. People took that as like I was talking about LeBron or talking about Kobe.
I only
had nothing
think
to do with LeBron and Kobe.
You only got fined, and this is my opinion, due to the public pressure of Lakers fans, because they wanted Kawhi Leonard so bad, and I think their fan base annoyingly controls so much of the media to the point where that became a thing. Where anything you said about Kawhi, anything, because Lakers fans think every free agent's coming there. They think Klay Thompson was going there. They thought Paul George was coming there. They think, and that's just what it is. And again, that's a credit to how passionate they are. I say this actually as a compliment to their fan base in how passionate they are about their Lakers. But I think the pressure, anything you said that had to do with Kawhi would have been viewed as tampering, or you trying to lure him in, whatever the case. Because this happened before the season, right? This happened before free agency when you were allowed to say anything, right?
Yeah, it did. And I think that's the reason, though, to be honest, is that they felt like it was tampering.
Right.
And you're right. Like, I don't know where it came from. Laker fans, Toronto.
I think it was Lakers and Toronto fans. I think Toronto wanted him back. I think it was public pressure from Toronto fans wanting Kawhi back and Lakers fans thinking they're the only realistic team in LA because he had already publicly said LA is where he wants to come. So I think once that's said, Lakers fans obviously view as it, it being their city, and rightfully so. They have all the banners or whatever, but that's just what it was. I think those two teams and the media surrounding both of them put you in a unfortunate position.
Yeah, it did. And I said it so innocently. But you know what? Listen, at the end of the day, it all worked out because we got Kawhi.
Yeah, you did.
and at the end of the day, and I didn't mean it in any other way than being complimentary.
Yeah. And you really do see him very similar to him still?
I do. Very same makeup. Like really Michael would set Michael apart, in my opinion, from everyone else. And Kawhi has the same quality as he ain't trying to be your friend.
Right.
Like, he's trying to win. He ain't trying to be popular. He's trying to win. It's about winning. Like, that drives him. And it's that way in practice. It's that way with the guys. You see so many, like, watching this documentary even drives the point home even more. All these guys, like, they had this killer in them. And Michael was the alpha, right? But there's been several guys like that. I would say Kobe had a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then I would say Kawhi, like, has a lot of that. It's just an innate thing about them that they're really not worried about being liked. They're worried about being respected.
And you would put Kawhi and Kobe probably closest to Michael in terms of that aspect?
In that aspect, yeah. The athletic aspect, I would put LeBron as the best athlete. I don't think there's ever been a better – now, and Michael was a super athlete, so was Kobe, so was Kawhi. I don't know if there's ever been an athlete in our league like LeBron
I don't think it's sports. I don't think it's sports has been anything like LeBron James.
It's funny. You're right. Like, I really believe if LeBron James had played football, he may have been the greatest football player ever at whatever position.
Right.
If he could catch. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Or defense.
But he was a guy, he had every offer in high school. He had every to go to, he had Ohio State. I mean, he was a top tier recruit in high school for football.
Well, always laugh. Could you imagine as a high school kid, as a senior, LeBron James with a helmet on? Like, that's like dangerous.
Yeah.
I would have given him the ball. Like, if he was on defense, I would have just, here, dude. He's a big.
Yeah, he
is. Carl, here's the thing. When someone asks me about LeBron, say, explain to me why he's so dominant. I said, okay, he weighs 10 pounds more than Karl Malone. Karl Malone was a power forward.
Right.
And was looked upon as the biggest, strongest guy in the league. LeBron James weighs 10 pounds more than him at the small forward, moving at the speed that he moves at.
Yeah.
That explains LeBron James in a nutshell.
Right. Would you put, if you had to put like your Mount Rushmore of top 5 players, LeBron's obviously in there. Would you put him 2 under Michael? Because you said you alluded earlier that Michael's number 1.
Yeah, Michael's 1 to me. And then the 2, 3, 4, 5, like, to me, they, like, I don't love doing this, as you know, because I think they're all great. The guy that I think, and LeBron would be on that Mount Rushmore, obviously, but the guy that I think that people don't give enough due to is Kareem. I don't think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gets enough credit. When you think about, he was on the all-defensive team, I think 11 straight years. He 17-time All-Star. He has a shot that every kid that's over 6'6" have tried to do, and no one's been able to do it.
Right.
He was lethal. I don't think he gets enough due.
Yeah, and I should have said starting 5 because I think Mount Rushmore is only 4. So
that's impressive. You know that. Like,
listen, man.
Education, Winter Park education is coming through. I'm very happy about this.
I went to Duke for about 4 months, but in those 4 months, I learned quite a bit, man. I took ping pong. I took ping pong and a bunch of other great electives that got me through. But I figured that would be your list. I always like asking guys who played from your era, what would be your top five? Because you obviously, like, it's easy for guys or people like me, because I only grew up in this era. So the only
Yeah.
guy we really know about is Michael. And then guys like us will put Magic in there and Bird in there just because we feel like we have to. It's like when you ask who's our top five rappers, a lot of guys in my generation is going to say Tupac, Biggie, but they don't really know Tupac, Biggie music. They just do it because they feel like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
if I had a starting five, I'm going Kareem at the center because I'm going that way, right? A starting five, all right?
okay.
I'm going Tim Duncan at the four because those both are two-way players.
Yeah.
I'm going Michael and Magic at the 1 and 2. This may be the biggest team ever. And then LeBron at the 3.
So you realize, just in terms of, because you're going with a whole different style of basketball, because there's not any three-point shooting on this team.
No.
I mean, obviously Michael's capable, and so was Kobe and Magic, but they weren't like lethal three-point shooters at any point in time.
But I'm also going with a team. The smallest guy is 6'7".
That's true. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you guys are just, yeah. I mean, whew. I'm trying to think what my top five would be, and I don't even know. I'd have to have time to.
But if you wanted to put the shooting five, someone asked me that the other day. What's your top five shooter? If you had to do it in a lineup, like as a starting lineup.
Oh yeah, that's a great question.
It'd be an interesting question because now you have to change. Like, who would the five be? I would put Dirk at the 5.
Dirk at the 5?
Yeah, put Dirk at the 5. I would put who did I say? Durant at the 3. Steph at the point, because that's what you would need. I would actually put Kobe in there because his ability to drive at the 2. Now that whole team changes. And at the 4, I couldn't even come up with one. There's 1,000 of them at the 4.
With shooting, because you're talking about starting 5 shooting, you're not putting Ray Allen in there?
Yeah, Ray is a better shooter than Kobe as far as just pure shooting.
Right.
But I was looking at Kobe because he could drive the ball as well. And Ray was an underrated driver, by the way. Like,
yeah, he was.
People will always talk about Ray shooting, but the biggest play that Ray made with the Celtics is in that 24-point comeback was 2 drives to the basket. Ray was so much better off the dribble than people ever gave him credit for.
Would you put I guess Kobe was obviously not as the greatest shooter as Ray Allen, but he could definitely hit a wider variety of shots than Ray. I mean, he has the best.
Well, this is what I would say with Kobe and the Pauls. They took a lot of tough shots, right?
Yeah.
But if you put them on a team where they're taking easy shots, where a lot of their shots could be spot up, it'd be interesting to see how great of a shooters they were. Like the Klay Thompsons of the world, they're taking great shots because through ball movement.
Right.
But if you put Kobe on a team with other great players, and now he doesn't have to force shots, it'd be interesting how his percentage would go up.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I've never even thought of it like that. Because I guess they did always have to take tough shots. You put him on a team with other – I mean, you saw how Kevin Durant was when he played with that Warriors team. He was unstoppable before that. But even with the Warriors, because you had so many more weapons, he was getting more open looks.
It was unguardable. Like,
yeah.
You watched our playoff series. So in game 1 last year, we put Pat on him, and it was terrific. We were doing a good job, as well as you can do.
Right.
And then but – Steph and Klay destroyed us. So then we come up with this stupid plan. I don't know who the coach was. Like, let's guard Kevin one-on-one and just take the medicine.
Right.
Well, listen, we stretched Golden State last year, but Kevin Durant averaged 40.
Yeah.
like we couldn't stop him. So, that's my point. Like, you put some of these great players with other great players where they don't have to make every play. Their shooting percentages would skyrocket.
Right. And then just kind of piggybacking off what you just said about Kevin, would Kevin be, or which player, I guess, would be the hardest to game plan for? Which player do you have to game plan the most for? When you guys get ready to play a game, which player does you and the coaching staff have to, like, really be like, all right, man, this one is, which one gives you guys the most problems?
Well, obviously LeBron, because he's such a great passer. And playmaker. So you have to deal with the scoring, the playmaking. Durant is right there. Steph, you have to game plan for Steph Curry. Like, if you don't, he's going to hurt you.
Right.
And so going into the game, you have to know what you have to try to take away from him, or at least try. Giannis, the way he plays, what you have to do. Is just hard to do it.
Right. Right.
But he may be the hardest in some ways. He's the simplest as far as game planning. He's the hardest to stop, which is interesting, because you got to get with Giannis, you got to get guys with the courage to stand in there and take the fight,
right.
Because he's coming at you.
100%.
And then James Harden is maybe the best one-on-one offensive player, just pure one-on-one. I don't know if you see him every day.
Yeah.
And he does some incredible stuff. But a lot of it is one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely probably the greatest one-on-one players ever in terms of scoring. I've never seen anybody be able to score the ball like him.
Or the greatest that's been allowed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
If you allow Michael to do it that way, or Durant, how good would they be? So, but James is a monster. Like, yeah. I think with him, people don't realize how strong he is. I think you were probably surprised by that.
I was surprised of how heavy he is, just in terms of his body weight, his step backs. People think it's just, all handles and movement. A lot of it's just his body weight bouncing defenders off of him. He has a variety of in his bag. What separates him, I think, from everybody else is his ability to shoot the long ball and finish at the paint, his floaters, passing, again, with other guys. And, yeah, he's special. Got a couple more questions for you, and I'll get you out of here, Pops. One I would really like to ask you is just kind of celebrating his legacy. 2020 has obviously been a very tough year for all of us, especially people like you and other coaches and players who got only to play with him but coach against him. That's Kobe Bryant. What's your favorite memory of him, and how will you always remember Kobe Bryant?
God, I have so many of them. I'll tell you two quick ones. His death was hard for everybody, and especially living in LA, and it still saddens me to this day. But the two that I remember the most, I have a lot of Kobe Bryant stories. The first one with Kobe is when we beat them in 2008, and there's a little clip that shows me and Kobe hugging, and I'm talking to him, and he's crying. You can see the tears in his eyes, and the tears, though, I remember walking in the locker room, I was like, those were sad tears. But what I remember most, those were tears like, if we get another shot at you guys, I'm going to try to kill you. That's how I felt, even in that moment. Like, you can feel like him sad and determined. Like, his head, he was already thinking at that moment about next year already. And that told me exactly, like, I'm thinking, man, this guy is a killer. That's who he is. The other one is in that same game, and this is how much you feared Kobe. You remember, you were at that game. It's funny. I just watched the game, and it's cool. The last minute, you were standing next to me on the floor when we were about to win the world championship, which is a cool moment for a father. Which is crazy now that kid standing next to me is in the NBA. But with 5 minutes left in that game, I think we were literally up 41 points.
Yeah. And
Tom Thibodeau, who Tibbs.
Yeah.
Tibbs is not subbing anybody at the end of the game.
Right.
I still have the starting lineup on the floor. We're up 40 with 5 minutes left. And Tom comes walking down. I'm standing by the scores table, and he says, hey, are you going to sub out guys at any point? Like, we're going to win this game. That's a relaxed Tom Thibodeau. And I turned to him, I said, as long as that guy is still on the floor, I'm not subbing anybody out. When Phil takes Kobe out, I'm taking Paul out. It's funny. We're up 40, and I'm sitting there, I'm still worried about Kobe Bryant. It just made no sense. But it just told you the fear you had about Kobe Bryant because he was that lethal.
Wow. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Yeah, I'm trying to even that night for me, obviously I was so young. It's just such a blur. I just remember and I couldn't even fathom what was really going on. I didn't know how big of a deal a championship was. I just knew it was a great thing. I
Yeah.
think like 12, 13. So I just knew it was a big deal. I just, now that I've played 7 years, I know how hard it is. Actually, I guess you could put it, I don't know how hard it is. I've never won. So you have that idea of just how much basketball. I think I realized how hard it is to win a championship, or how crazy it is when I would go to the playoffs. Obviously, this is with you, with the Clippers, or here in Houston. We go the second round, and then we lose. And then it felt like an eternity later, the playoffs are still going on. Like, it'd be like 2 months later, I'm on like a month later, but it felt like 3 months. And I'd be like, it's crazy. Teams are still playing basketball. There are
No,
two teams still left. Like, I mean,
it's nuts. It's
I,
nuts, Austin. It's so the first time in 2008, I remember when we were in LA for game 3 or whatever, and we used actually the Clippers practice facility to practice in. And I remember leaving the practice one day and seeing players, NBA players going in. They were starting the pickup games to get prepared for next season, and we're still playing.
wow.
I mean, I was thinking that's what people don't get. When people say, well, they got to win a title or they should win it, people have no clue. They literally don't. They have no clue how hard it is to win and how lucky you have to be and how the team has to come to. It takes so much, and you have to get it right. Otherwise, you don't win.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And obviously, you guys went back-to-back years there, going against the Lakers, which will go down as some of the best series that ever happened. I mean, the Celtics-Lakers rivalry extends all the way back then. So I was just lucky enough to have a front row seat to watch you
You were.
and that team go through that. It's an amazing experience. We're going to wrap this up with just some rapid-fire questions, man. Just a couple, only like 4 or 5. Best player you've ever played with?
Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing, but Patrick Ewing's my man.
Hardest player you ever had to guard?
Well, Michael would be hard. It's Magic for me because of his size. He was just too big. Like, he shouldn't have been a guard.
Really? So Magic Johnson was the hardest player to guard?
For me, just because of his size.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to actually create my own question off of that. What was one player that was so hard for you to guard that people don't talk about? Or like people that
Ricky Pierce.
Ricky Pierce.
Ricky Pierce, he had my number. Like, it got to the point on the Hawks after the game, after he had 30 or whatever against me, the teammates on my locker room, because I was a defensive playing dude.
Right.
But I remember Dominique would laugh about it because he loved it, and you know how teams are.
Right.
We would get on the bus, and he's like, kryptonite for Doc, Ricky Pierce. He used to say it all the time.
I'm going to be honest. I don't even mean to be – I'm not going to act like I don't know who Ricky Pierce is.
Yeah, Ricky Pierce was a 2-3, strong as an ox, played with the Bucks, played with other teams. Was very similar for you. You remember Benny Johnson?
Yeah.
He was very similar to like the Benny Johnson mode.
Right.
He was stronger than me. I was stronger than most guys. He would beat you up. Like, he was just a tough guy. He had, I don't know, sometimes I believe in body rhythms. I just could not get his rhythm. I couldn't stop the dude. It bothered me. He would be the one that you don't know that I couldn't stop.
Yeah, I've always told people Kevin Martin was a guy that when I was a couple of years in the league, and that was on his way. That wasn't even like prime Kevin Martin.
Yeah, he was tough though.
Such a quirky guard. He was hard to guard. Playing or coaching? Which one is more fulfilling for you?
Coaching, and I never thought I would say that because I grew up wanting to be a player. You know, I had no thoughts of ever wanting to coach. I grew up wanting to be a player. And now I love coaching because for me, I can touch more people. Like I can, so it'd be coaching.
And when did you, just for my personal curiosity, when did you decide, like, or when did you really start to feel like, I want to coach? Because like I got asked this question the other day. Everybody was like, I don't know if you saw that. People were like, do you see yourself coaching? I said, well, prior to this, this whole career, my whole career, I've never thought like, nah, it's not for me. I don't know if I have the patience. I don't know if I have that skill in me to coach. But over the, I'd say the past year or so, that's something that, again, it's not like I'm obviously only 27 and very young,
Yeah,
but
you have some time.
it is something that is like, actually now maybe I could see myself maybe getting into that down the line. Again, opinions change. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a while from now, but just interesting to see when that changed for you.
Pat Riley.
Pat Riley.
Yeah, like I never wanted to coach, but then I played for the Knicks and Pat Riley and just listened to him. His pregame talks, man, he was unbelievable. And he inspired you. Like I always thought, like, never thought about coaching, but then when I got to him, I was like, man, I want to do this. This guy's amazing. So I would say when I joined the Knicks.
Okay. What's the player that makes your coaching, or no, I should say this. Which player have you learned from the most while coaching?
Kevin Garnett. Yeah, I would say there's several of them, but Kevin would lead the pack. Just his ability to change the culture of your team. He's demanding with his players, his teammates, and with the coaching staff in some ways. So I would say Kevin Garnett for sure.
That's what I thought. I was for sure going to say, if I had to put a guess, I was going to say either Paul or Kevin, one of the two. All right, and then lastly, what's the one game, player or coach, that still keeps you up at night, or one that you just can't get over?
Oh, or maybe I tell you. What's the other question? Maybe.
No, I was just gonna say maybe you're probably over it, but what's that one game that you're like, if I could just go back and change,
Well, you're never over it. 2010 Game 7 Lakers.
That's what I figured.
For sure. And then you know what? Another one is the Rocket game when we had a big lead with the Clippers.
That would be mine. That's my game.
Yeah. So those are the two for me, because the Rocket game, there's listen, the game plan was right. We made Corey Brewer and Josh Smith make threes, and they did. But offensively, I always thought like we couldn't score against a team that wasn't a great defensive team anymore. And I look back on that, like I would love to have that one over.
Yeah, shout out to C. Brew and Jay Smooth, man. They who would have thought? Obviously, they both had great careers, but weren't specifically known as three-point shooters. But I don't know how many they both hit. But yeah, that game was.
I think
still
they made 4 and 5. I want to say in the fourth. I mean, it's nuts what they did, but give them credit. They did get shots and made them all.
Yeah, that's that game to this day, because I felt like that was before the Warriors became the Warriors.
No,
and
listen, we had beaten the Warriors the year before, or the first year. So we were ready. I don't know if we would have beaten the Warriors or not, but I wanted that matchup so bad to get in the Western Finals, us against the Warriors. I thought that would have been a great series.
Yeah, me too. That would have been special, man. I've always wanted to. Obviously, I got to last year with the Rockets actually, and we dropped the ball on that. Kevin got hurt game 6, and then we had game 5, and we had them without Kevin, and we weren't able to close the deal. So
yeah, I was sitting in the stands in that one.
Yeah, so you were watching that game. That was different.
Yeah.
I thought we had it, but they came out and obviously changed.
That was crazy. I had a beer in my hand watching you play basketball.
Yeah, how was that? That was your first time ever doing that, right? Was that your first time ever coming to a game, watching a playoff game where you're not in it?
Yeah, ever. I'm just sitting there and talking to the Golden State fans. Then when I went to Houston, talking to Houston fans, sitting in the crowd. I actually loved the experience of sitting in the crowd. It's a cool thing. It really kind of you forget, because you're playing, Austin, and we're playing. You forget how much the fans are invested into your team. And watching the Golden State fans and the Rocket fans, I mean, they were sitting there, like with every miss, they were reacting and going crazy. And I was thinking, this is really a cool experience.
And that's what's going to be so interesting if we do come back, just to lastly say this. If we do play this, there's going to be no fans. And it's going to be so crazy to see how that affects, because now there's not a home court advantage. There's just not. If there isn't allowed fans to be in the arena, that energy, that atmosphere, if you're down 20, it's going to feel like 50, because like fans can bring you back. You know what I mean? It's like you hit a couple shots, that energy, now you can only rely on your teammates. Free throw percentages will go up. There's so much a variety of things that will change. If there's no fans in the building.
I think it will. I don't know who it will affect more. Like But it'll definitely be it'll be an AAU game.
Yeah.
When you're in some of those gyms and without parents.
Right.
It'll be an AAU game without parents.
Right.
You know, I was jokingly telling somebody from the league, the other thing you better get is the officials better put earplugs in, because they're going to hear things that they never heard in their life. You know, before, you know, like even me, like I'm on the officials, but I'm just constantly talking. Like
right.
But with me, like sitting on the bench sometimes, an official will make a call, and I'll turn to my coach. Man, that's an awful call. Well, they didn't hear that.
Right.
Now they're gonna hear everything.
Oh, it's gonna have to players, the restraint, they're gonna have, because you're absolutely right. I mean, we say stuff to half the time we say stuff loud enough to where we feel like we can get our frustration out on them, but we know they can't hear it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now it's, you know, so yeah, that'll be crazy. Obviously,
that will be
it will be the most viewed games though ever. I mean, on TV, everybody's gonna watch these games. But anyways, man, I just wanted to close this up. I want to appreciate you first and foremost, Pops, for coming on here. I know it's crazy times right now. Obviously, we talk just about every other day, keeping in touch. But thank you for coming on here. And this is my return episode to go off. I've been long overdue putting one of these out there. So who better to do it than with you? So I appreciate you taking time and coming on the show.
Well, love you, man. Give Caden a big hug for me, since you get to be home with my grandson and I can't be there. So just give him a big hug.
I got you, man. I got you. Stay safe.